There's a reason you're stuck, a reason they keep winning. And it's not about talent, money, or intelligence. It's that subtle, invisible weight holding you back from doing what needs to be done. You've felt it before. The hesitation to ask for more, that inner voice telling you not to take credit, the pause before speaking because someone might disapprove. You might think that hesitation makes you moral, but the truth is, shame makes you manageable. That's why they taught it to you. The rich aren't taught humility. They teach you to be humble. The powerful aren't guilted. They guilt you into silence. A person ruled by shame is predictable, soft, obedient. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. Control shame, and you control people. Remove shame, and you become ungovernable. Think about it. The boldest people you know don't apologize for being loud, rich, aggressive, or ambitious. They don't care if you like them. They care if you obey, admire, or fear them. That's the difference. So ask yourself, why do you keep shrinking to fit? Why do you apologize for your goals? Why do you worry if they misunderstand your success? Because you're still following a broken code. A code built to keep you average. It's time to uninstall that programming. It's time to become someone they can't guilt. Shame doesn't come from truth. It comes from training. You weren't born ashamed. You were taught from childhood. The system, your parents, school, religion, and society didn't just show you right from wrong. They conditioned you to feel wrong, for wanting more, for wanting attention, for wanting power, for wanting to be better than others. That's the real function of shame, to control your ambition. Think about it. Why are people uncomfortable asking for a raise? Why do they lower their voices when talking about money? Why do they hide their goals like they're guilty for having them? Because shame made you internalize a lie. If you stand out, you must be selfish. If you win too much, you must be doing something wrong. That's not ethics. That's obedience training. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He said, people are easier to control when they control themselves, and nothing controls you better than shame. It's why modesty is glorified in the lower class, while the elite live without apology. They don't teach billionaires to be humble. They teach you to be humble, because if you stop feeling guilty, you might start getting smart. And if you get smart, you'll stop playing the role they wrote for you. The truth is, brutal, but simple. Shame is not a moral compass. It's a mental cage. And the moment you stop living for others' approval, you break out of that cage, not by becoming evil, but by finally being free to act without explanation. That's where real power begins. Let's stop pretending. The world doesn't reward goodness. It rewards compliance. And the easiest way to make someone compliant isn't by threatening them or imprisoning them. It's by teaching them to feel shame for wanting power. It's efficient, clean, silent. Shame turns confident people into quiet workers. It turns visionaries into rule followers. It turns potential threats into obedient citizens. Because here's how the game is really played. If you feel bad about standing out, you'll stay quiet when you should speak. If you feel bad about winning too much, you'll sabotage your own success just to fit in. If you feel bad asking for what you deserve, you'll keep accepting scraps while someone shameless takes the whole table. And society calls that humility. But let's be clear. What they call humility is often just emotional obedience. Why do you think every time someone starts rising in life, there's instant backlash? She thinks she's better than us. He forgot where he came from. Money changed him. No, money didn't change him. Freedom did, and nothing unnerves the herd more than someone who no longer plays by their emotional rules. The system is built to reward the ashamed, not because they're moral, but because they're manageable. Think about your own life. How many times have you stayed silent in a room to avoid seeming arrogant? How many times have you downplayed your skills to avoid making others uncomfortable? How many times have you denied yourself what you wanted, not because it was wrong, but because you feared what people might say? That's not virtue. That's self-censorship. And that's exactly what they want. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He didn't trust morality as a guide for leadership. He trusted outcomes, power, leverage, because morality bends under pressure, but shame breaks you before the pressure even begins. Shame is like spyware in your brain. It runs in the background, slows you down, and reports everything back to the system. It whispers, "Don't say that. You'll look rude. Don't take that opportunity. You're not ready. Don't ask for more. Be grateful for what you have." But that whisper isn't your conscience. It's programming. Who benefits when you play small? Who benefits when you apologize for winning? Who benefits when you hand over your voice in exchange for approval? The answer is always the same. Not you. Look around. The people in true power are rarely the most moral. They're the most unapologetic. They speak without fear. They act without shame. They take without asking. And here's the kicker. The world still follows them, still buys from them, still praises them, even as it pretends to hate them. Because deep down, we respect what we fear, and we fear what we can't control. A man who feels no shame is dangerous, not because he's evil, but because he's free. You can't guilt trip him. You can't emotionally blackmail him. You can't box him in with society's fake rules. That's why the system punishes shamelessness, not with laws, but with judgment. Not with jail, but with shame. Because if they can't own your emotions, they can't own you. And that terrifies them. So what do? They hand out awards for humility. They praise those who stay grounded. They publicly shame anyone who grows too fast, speaks too loud, or wants too much. It's all performance, because they know the moment you wake up, the moment you realize shame was never a virtue, you'll stop trading your power for peace. You'll stop begging for permission, and you'll start taking what's already yours. Let this be clear. The world doesn't need more nice, humble, approval-seeking people. The world needs shameless thinkers, unapologetic movers, men and women who cannot be shamed into silence. Because in the end, those are the only ones who ever shape history. Everyone else just lives in it. There's a secret all-powerful people know, and they'll never say it out loud. They don't care what you think. That's their edge. Not money, not beauty, not talent, but indifference. Shamelessness isn't just boldness. It's emotional immunity. You become untouchable the moment you stop needing validation from people who aren't qualified to judge you. The average man walks around chained to public opinion. Every move he makes is filtered through one question: will they approve? And that's exactly why he never rises. He's too careful to lead, too agreeable to command, too dependent on approval to be feared or respected. The shameless man, on the other hand, has no leash. He's free, not because he's reckless, but because he's detached. You insult him. He doesn't flinch. You doubt him. He doubles down. You shame him. He uses it as fuel. This is what Machiavelli meant when he wrote, "It is far safer to be feared than loved, because love is conditional. Fear is not. People love you until you threaten their ego, until your light exposes their darkness, until your confidence reminds them of how much they've settled. But fear and respect are built when they realize this man cannot be shamed. He cannot be bent. When you become indifferent to opinions, something remarkable happens. You gain gravity. You walk into a room and people feel it, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're not. Neediness repels. Detachment attracts. This is the paradox most people never understand. The more you chase respect, the less you get. The more you require validation, the more invisible you become. But the moment you stop chasing and move like you don't care, everything shifts. Let's be brutally honest. Who commands the room? The man apologizing for his words, or the one who speaks with zero hesitation, zero shame, and doesn't look around for approval? Who wins in life? The person waiting to be chosen, or the one who walks in like they've already won? Shamelessness isn't loud. It isn't arrogant. It's unapologetically still. You don't need to prove. You don't need to explain. You don't need to please. Because when your mindset is rooted in indifference, you understand this cold truth. You do not need to be liked. You need to be remembered. And memory isn't reserved for the agreeable. It's reserved for those who leave a mark. But indifference requires discipline. It's easy to say, I don't care. It's hard to actually not care. Society has trained you since birth to tie your self-worth to praise. You were taught that acceptance is the prize and rejection is punishment. But here's what Machiavelli would whisper in your ear. Every time they praise you, they control you. Every time they shame you, they bind you. Until you learn to be unaffected by both praise and shame, you are not free. You are still playing their game. But once you master indifference, you become dangerous, unpredictable, sovereign. You stop performing, you stop apologizing. You stop negotiating your value, because kings don't explain. Lions don't ask for permission, and those who truly rule walk alone until the crowd has no choice but to follow. Shame isn't just a feeling, it's a weapon. Silent, invisible, but deadly. It doesn't shoot, it doesn't bleed. It whispers, and the worst part, by the time you feel it, it's already inside you. Shame is how the system ensures you never rise too high, not by force, but by invasion. They don't chain your hands, they chain your mind. They convince you that certain desires are too much, that your hunger is selfish, that your ambition is arrogant, that your confidence is narcissism. It's not morality, it's control. The masses aren't controlled by guns. They're controlled by guilt, by making you believe that wanting power makes you a bad person. That's the genius of the system. They never have to stop you. They just teach you to stop yourself. Before you speak, you hesitate. Before you ask, you apologize. Before you win, you doubt. And all of that is shame doing its job. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He said, "A man who desires power must learn to appear virtuous while doing what is necessary." Why? Because the world doesn't punish evil. It punishes exposure. If you're shameless, if you're unapologetic, you're a threat. They can't guilt trip you. They can't silence you. They can't make you play small. So what do? They attack you early. They laugh at you before you've even started. They question your audacity. They mock your goals. Not because your goals are wrong, but because if you ever stop being ashamed, you'll surpass them. Make no mistake, most shame comes from insecure people who want company in their misery. They've built a little prison, a mental cell, where they've accepted mediocrity. And every time you act boldly, they feel their walls crack. So they lash out, not with fists, but with phrases like, "You've changed." That's not realistic. Who do you think you are? You're full of yourself. Full of yourself is something people say when they can't handle someone who's not empty. They want you insecure because insecure people are easy to control. If you dare to believe in yourself unapologetically, they'd have to confront the fact that they never did. So instead of rising with you, they shame you into shrinking. The moment you accept that shame, you give them power. You begin to edit your words, lower your standards, shrink your presence, just to be liked by people who will never clap for you anyway. This is how dreams die, not from failure, but from slow, quiet surrender to societal shame. But there's a way out, and it's brutally simple. You must become shameless. You must reframe shame, not as a sign of wrongdoing, but as a signal you're finally stepping beyond your cage. Because the truth is, the world won't shame you when you're losing. They shame you when you're starting to win. So next time they try to shame you for thinking big, for taking up space, for breaking norms, smile. You've triggered their insecurity. That's confirmation. Proof you're not one of them. And you never should be. The Machiavellian understands this game. Appear polite, think like a wolf, and never, ever feel guilty for being more. Because once you stop responding to shame, they lose their only weapon. And that's when you become dangerous. Not because you're aggressive, but because you're free. You've heard the philosophy. You felt the fire. Now it's time to act. Because ideas without action are just daydreams. And in Machiavelli's world, only execution counts. So how do you live shamelessly? Not in theory, not in quotes, but in real life. With real consequences, real enemies, and real resistance. Never explain. Never justify. If you believe in it, move. If you want it, take it. If they ask why, smile. Explaining is begging. Justifying is weakness. Once you start explaining your value, you're already on defense. Speak with zero hesitation. Every time you filter your words to please others, you kill a piece of your power. Speak directly. Speak clearly. Speak like you're ready for consequences. People follow voices that sound like decisions, not doubts. Own your desires, all of them. Power, money, status, influence, respect. Don't hide them. Don't dress them up in noble language. Don't call it passion when it's actually domination. The world respects a person who is brutally honest about what they want. Not because it's pretty, but because it's rare. Use rejection as ammunition. The more shameless you are, the more they'll resist you. Let them doubt you. Let them mock you. Let them walk away. Every no is fuel. Every door slammed in your face is confirmation you're too bold for their comfort. And that's good. You were never meant to be comfortable to small minds. Act like it's already yours. This is the final rule, the lethal one. Behave like you already have what they think you don't deserve. That confidence, that unshakable certainty is magnetic and maddening. It makes people question reality. It makes them bend because you refuse to play small. That energy rewrites the rules of the room. This is how kings move. This is how legends are made. This is how you stop being optional and start being inevitable. Being shameless will cost you fake friends, empty praise, surface-level approval. It'll cost you the comfort of being liked by everyone. But what you gain in return is self-respect, power, control over your own life. Most people never taste this because most people are still slaves to the crown. Not you. Not anymore. You didn't come here to be humble. You came here to win. So take this philosophy, take this power, and walk back into the world like someone who can no longer be shamed, only remembered. Because in a world that runs on guilt, regret, and self-doubt, the most powerful thing you can do is this: be shameless, be bold, be undeniable. If this message struck a nerve, it was meant to. Like, subscribe, join the ruthless few. Because we're not here to be accepted. We are here to rise.